There we go. We're recording. So welcome to Painting Through the Pandemic. I'm Shauna Sue. I own Crooked Door Studio in Uptown Marysville. The studio has been physically closed for a little over a year now. Friday the 13th, March 2020. Friday the 13th in March of 2020 was our last class in the studio. We went virtual because of the pandemic, and we've been virtual ever since. We're starting to tip our toe back in the water, though. Have a few private parties, testing it out, seeing how it goes. And if all is right with the world, we'll be able to get back in the studio for public classes in the first part of June. So super excited about that. And I like to bring that up because I still have a studio, because you guys have all donated to classes and bought supplies through the studio. You are the reason. You are helping me pay my rent, so we'll still have a studio to go back to. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for that. Couldn't do it without you. Okay, so thank you. I appreciate you. Let's talk about supplies before we get started. So first thing you want to do, you want to look around. Make sure, since you're painting at home, you can see I'm at home. I'm in my kitchen right now. Let's take a look around and make sure there's nothing that you're really concerned if you get paint on. Since you're at home, let's take a moment and look around. Make sure you don't have a good dish towel laying beside you. You're not standing on grandma's rug. The paint that I'm using is acrylic paint. I'm assuming you're using acrylic paint as well. Acrylic paint is water-based, water-soluble, which is fabulous for painting like this. Dries pretty quickly, so we can paint over it. You clean it out of your brushes with water, but acrylic paint, when it dries, it turns to plastic. Essentially, it turns to plastic. So if you get it in clothing fiber, it's a real bear to get out. Okay, so let's take a moment, look around, make sure there's nothing you're super concerned about getting paint on. Okay, as well as looking around your surroundings. Take a look at your clothes. Make sure you don't have a good shirt on. Make sure you have an apron, a paint shirt. I left my apron at the studio, so I have my paint shirt on tonight, right? I always say, make sure you have a shirt that you're not concerned about. And I always like rub my shoulder, and people are like, what are you doing? I'm real bad about putting a dirty brush in my teeth if I'm working on something, like a pencil, right? You just put it in your mouth so you have your hands free. And then I turn my head, and I will always like dab my shoulder with that dirty brush. So that's why I do that. So anyway, with that said, we've checked our surroundings. We've checked our clothing situation. Let's talk about our canvas. So our inspiration painting tonight, it's lovely vertical. It's the trees, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But the way that painting is situated, I'm going to use my canvas vertically tonight. It's a 16 by 20 stretched canvas. You could turn it horizontal if you wanted. I think this painting works well both ways. But with the inspiration painting situated the way it is, I'm going to try and follow that pretty closely. So I'm going to keep my canvas more vertical. Okay. So I have a 16 by 20 stretched. Let me turn this a little. There we go. 16 by 20 stretched canvas. That means it's stretched, it's wrapped around, stapled on the back. Decide now if you're going to paint your edges or not. You don't have to, but what you don't ever want to do is start painting them and then stop, because that looks messy and unfinished. So we're going to start by painting that blue in the sky. Excuse me. We're going to paint that blue in the sky. As we work in that top, if you're going to paint your edges, that would be the time to get up there and paint that as you go. It's easier to paint your edges and match them up. Wait, strike that, reverse it. It's easier to paint your edges as you go than it is to try to match that color up later. Okay, so I have apron, paint shirt, check my surroundings, have my canvas. I have a cup of water. I like to use something heavy. I like to use a mason jar or a coffee cup. I'm less likely to knock it over. A little clumsy when I paint. I don't pay close attention. So I like something that has a little bit of weight to it. Halfway full with cool or cold water. never warm or hot. It always wants to be cool or cold. Okay. I've got some paper towels, little stack of paper towels down here underneath my water cup that I can blot my brushes off on. And then brushes for tonight. I have my my trusty tried and true threesome here. I have my big wash brush. Yours might be oval, yours might be flat, might be angle, entirely up to you, but you want something that's pretty big, right? We're going to use this for those background colors, those big broad brush strokes. So a nice big brush. I have a medium brush. Mine's a medium filbert, and a filbert means he's kind of rounded. Again, yours might be flat, yours might be angled, but some kind of a medium brush. We're going to do some of the detailing in the sky, maybe our trees with this one. Okay, so some kind of a medium brush. And then a liner brush, a round. This one is a number 5. That's just what I happen to grab, right? My number 5. Yours might be bigger, might be smaller. The most important part is to make sure when you're using a round brush like this, make sure it comes to a point. It might be really big around, as long as it comes to that lovely tight point. I'm not concerned about how big around it is. I have other round brushes that are really fat, but they have that lovely point on them, and they'll work just fine for what we're wanting to accomplish. So those 3 guys. While I'm painting, I'm going to take those guys, whatever brushes you think you're going to use, dump them in your water cup, leave them there. Now, I've had people say that's not good for your brushes. You're right. Long term, it's not good for your brushes. But while we're painting, during this couple hours tonight, while we're painting together, that's the best place for them, so they don't dry out and get crusty halfway through a painting, and you start to get paint dried up in the bezel, and it's a whole mess. So while we're painting, they'll stay in the water cup. As soon as I'm done with somebody, he goes back in the water cup. Then, as soon as I'm done painting, when we're done for the evening, I'll take those brushes, wash them out in warm, soapy water, lay them flat to dry. I never dry my brushes standing upright, because the brushes will splay out, right? If they're drying upright, they'll splay out. You always want to leave them lay flat to dry. Once they're dry, you can set them up all nice and pretty in a cup and display them that way. But while they're wet, leave them lay flat till they're dry. Okay, now let's talk about our paint colors. So tonight, I have 7. All right, 7 different colors here. Yours may be a little different than mine. It's okay. I don't think, looking at my painting, my picture, I don't think we're concerned if you have different colors tonight. Sometimes, if you've been with us before, sometimes we get concerned about the red, but there's really no purple in this painting. So I'm not concerned about the red tonight. Okay, let's go around our wheel here. I have white. I'm using blockout white. Yours might be blockout, yours might be titanium. Any white will do. I have a nice bright yellow. I think Blick calls it chrome yellow maybe, but just something, a nice pretty bright yellow. Orange. Again, I think Blick calls it chrome orange, but just a nice bright pretty orange. Bright red. Again, your red tonight doesn't really matter. You might have fire red, you might have cadmium, you might have crimson, but just a nice, bright, pretty red. My trusty phthalo blue. Again, any blue will work. I love phthalo blue because it's really dark and rich, and I can keep it nice and dark if I want, or I can add white to it and get it nice and bright and light. So it's really versatile for what I want to do. Phthalo green. Love phthalo green because it's kind of turquoisey. So we can add blue to it and make it kind of turquoisey, or we can add yellow to it and make it kind of limeish. Very versatile. and then Mars black. Any black will do. You might have ebony, but any black you have is fine. So those are the colors that I have. While we're talking about colors, if you need paint from the studio, I can always get you paint from the studio. You get it from me in these little 2-ounce containers like this. I sell them for 50 cents a piece. There's enough in here for a couple paintings, usually, right? There's usually plenty of paint in here. If you snap the lid back on it nice and tight, just pour out what you think you're going to use, snap the lid back on nice and tight. You can use it for weeks or months. I think the yellow I've been using for several months now, right? Because I evidently don't use yellow that much. So I have, this was not a color on the list, but I found this in my bag. I love this color. It's a Blick color that they've started selling pretty recently. It's called Turquoise. I didn't put it on the list because I didn't want anybody to go out and specially buy it, because we can actually mix and get really close to this with blue, green, and white. But if you're ever out there and you're like, oh, I need a pretty turquoise color, Blick has a really pretty turquoise. So I might mix some of this in. We'll see. Okay. I do believe that's everything. Let's get started, shall we? Oh, I have listed out over in the comments. I have our supply list over there, but I have also listed out, if you would like to donate to the studio, ways to do that. That's in the comments as well. Okay, so let's talk about our inspiration picture. Whoop, I'm tangled. Stand by. My kitchen is like a recording studio in here. I've got so many wires. All my cords. Okay, we find our inspiration picture. Here it is. I always like to give you a road map for where we're going to go. Okay, because if I were taking a class, I would want to know which direction we're going to go. So we're going to start top, work our way down. We always think big, broad strokes first, and then we start to get detailed. And we always think, I shouldn't say always, because there's exceptions to every rule, but usually top down, furthest away, closest toward us. Okay, so top down, we're going to identify where those swirls belong in the sky with some blue. We're going to find our horizon line. And then we're going to start to add some other colors down to the horizon. And then we're going to reverse it. So we're going to go blue into some green, then get into some yellow, orange, red, right down at the horizon. Then we're going to reverse that and get our water in there. So we're going to go red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Okay, we'll come back up and we'll play a little more in the sky. We'll put our stars and our moon up in there. And then we'll come down and we'll work on those trees. So again, furthest away, sky, and then start working closer. Those trees are closer than the sky. So we'll get those trees in there and the reflections. And then we'll break those reflections up in the water as the water goes down toward the bottom of the canvas, which means it comes closer to us. That's kind of the direction we're going to go. Now, remember, this is just an inspiration. If you don't want any orange in your sky, then don't put any orange in your sky. Entirely up to you. I'm going to try to stick to this, but this is just your reminder. You do what you want, okay? It's your painting. All right, here we go. Find your biggest brush. Your biggest brush. Now, whether my brush is new or old, I always like to start by tapping it gently in the bottom of the water cup. Tap, tap, tap. Soften that guy up a little bit. Dry him off on your paper towel. He's going to be damp. We're just getting off the excess water. And the first thing I want to do is identify my horizon line. So where my sky meets my water. I'm feeling about 2/3 of the way down. I'm always hesitant to split a painting in half. Anyway, it's weird to break a painting in half. In the art world, we always think in thirds. Shouldn't say always, exceptions to every rule, but about 2/3 of the way down. With that big brush, I'm going to take the tiniest bit of blue because I'm going to cover it up later. But I'm going to take the tiniest bit of blue. Anytime you take paint, we always go in the edge, never the middle of the puddle. We always go in the edge. So the tiniest bit of blue. And about 2/3 of the way down, I'm just going to put a line across here, just a really light line to identify my horizon. And I have to step in front to get it straight. I apologize. There we go. Didn't spend a lot of time on it. I just need to know where I need to stop my sky and start my water. Okay, just a little bit of that blue. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do, we have to identify where those swirls are going to live in the sky. So I still have blue on my brush. I'm going to start with just a little bit of paint to identify those swirls. A little bit of blue. And I know I want a big swirl, a little left to center. Woo, that kind of goes like that, like a big wave. It goes down a little lower. So I know now from here up, that's going to be blue sky. That's fun. Okay. Once I have that, I'm going to come back to where I started. And I have to figure out what is blue up here, where the blue comes down and stops to go into different colors. So I'm going to go here. Kind of like that. Kind of, we'll see. More like that. Again, this is whatever you want it to be, but this is going to help me as I fill my sky in, I fill those colors in. Here we go. While I'm at it, I'm going to identify too where my moon is. So my moon is going to be up in this corner. It's about the size of a baseball-ish. And then he has a little buddy up here, a little star buddy right there. And then a couple little star buddies over here. One there. One there. Okay. So I'll give you a minute to get that on there because that's helping us identify where our brush strokes want to go now. So I'm looking over at my screen. Lori, I swear yours said fire toilet. I don't know why. Lori's name on her tablet is Fire Tablet. I thought it said fire toilet. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I'm not judging. I don't know what goes on in your house. Okay. So now I know where my stars are at, where my moon is. I know from there, everything up is going to be blue. Now to fill that in, my brush strokes are going to follow that line and they're going to get a little bigger and bigger and bigger until I have all this filled in. Let me show you. I'm going to take some blue, a lot of blue, but I'm also going to take a tiny bit of white, just a tiny bit. I want the blue to stay pretty dark, but if I don't add a little bit of white to it, the blue is going to be very transparent. I'm not adding white to necessarily make my blue lighter. I'm adding a little bit of white to give my blue some weight. This is where also going in the edge of your paint, super important, right? Because I'm taking a dirty blue brush right there in the edge of that white, little swipe of white. See, I've boogered it up there, but I can still use clean white the rest of the way around that puddle. So a lot of blue, a little bit of white, and let's start to go back over that line. Oh, and expand that out a little. My biggest guidance to you is don't be afraid to use paint. Use plenty of paint. And if you're going to paint your edges, now's the time. Again, easier to paint them as you go than it is to try to match them later. Okay, more blue, little white. And it doesn't have to be all the same shade of blue. I got a little lighter here. I'm okay with that. A little darker there. I'm okay with that. As I get up here to my stars, we're going to expand those out too. Not filling them in, my stars, because we're going to fill them in with white, yellow later. But I'm expanding those lines out as well for those stars. So let's continue to do that. Let's expand those lines out. Everything from the lines we put on there up, blue, little bit of white. I love this painting because it's very Van Gogh. And this is where we remind ourselves, how long did it take Van Gogh to perfect this look, right? So ours may not look like Van Gogh by the time the night is over, but we're having fun, we're learning, right? Artists take years, take lifetimes to learn and perfect techniques. So I guess what I'm saying is be kind to yourself. Let the paint just roll tonight. Let's see what happens. Expanding that up. Can you see as we do this, once we get those big broad brush strokes on there and we have that big block of color, it's going to be a lot easier to go in with our smaller brush and lay those smaller lines on there. I've seen people do things like this and they want to start with the smaller dash lines. And I think that's hard. I think it's easier to get those big, broad, rounded brush strokes. And then I know I already have a roadmap then for my little lines. And edges, don't forget edges. Oh, I gotta expand my moon out. Expand those stars out. Again, I'm not filling those stars in. Okay. Hmm. It's funny, I started painting when I was 10 years old. I've been painting forever because I'm going to be 47 here in a hot second. So I've been painting forever. And I think I knew I wanted to continue to paint when I was 10 years old, when I realized how much I love the feel of the paint in a brush. I just love the feel of it. Not funny that something like that would stick with you 37 years later. Okay. Oh, edges. Gotta get over here and get this edge. Again, easier to match your edges up now. Easier to paint them now than it is to match them up later. Okay. So how do we do? Do we have that road map now up there? Do we know where our smaller brush strokes are going to go? Our smaller little dash brush strokes? I'm going to start to identify those now. I'm going to take my big brush, keep using my big brush, but instead of using it fat ways to get big, broad coverage, I'm going to turn it and use it skinny ways to start some of those dash marks. So with my dirty brush, I'm going to take just white, and using it skinny ways. What if I start to get some dashes on there? Dash. Dirty brush, my big brush, little bit of white, dash. I'm doing this while my blue is wet, so it'll blend in. So I'm not just laying that white on top. It's going to blend into the wet blue that is there. Oh, I need to go around my stars. I can do more to these later, but I'm starting to accentuate some of that dash. Those little choppy brush strokes. So again, I'm taking white on my big brush, skinny ways. My dashes are, I don't know, maybe an inch long. As a reminder, it's my goal to show you all these fun techniques, and then you keep playing. So again, you may be moving at your own pace. You may be moving slower than me. That is okay. Because you can come back and play in here even after we're done tonight. That's fun. Okay. So now, while this is wet, again, not done. I'm going to go back in there and play a little more with my medium brush in a little bit. But that gives me a really good idea of what that's going to look like later. Okay. While that's wet, let's add our next color. Big brush. I've got blue on there, a little bit of blue. You can see not big chunks of blue, just a little bit of blue. I'm gonna take the tiniest bit of green. This is gonna get me that really bright, pretty turquoise color. Green and white. Okay, green and white on that dirty blue brush. And I want this section that's blue, I want to add that lovely turquoise strip right on top of there. So big brush with dirty blue on it, little green, little white. I'm going to use it skinny ways. And I'm going to do some dashes. Oh, that's pretty. And I'm doing this while that blue is wet, so it's kind of blending a little. Thank you, Rhonda. All good. So some green, some white. Ooh, getting that turquoise on there. If you're not getting the turquoise you want, ask yourself, do you have enough blue in your brush? Do you need more green? Oh, that's pretty. That was more white. I want that to really stand out. Oh, that's fun. Okay. Again, I can come back and play in this later with my medium brush and get some really defined strokes in there. But this gives me, again, a good idea, those big blocks of color, where they belong. Okay. Accentuate that a little more. It's funny, the brush strokes in the original picture to me are so controlled, and that's not the way I paint. I'm kind of a free spirit. So my brush strokes are very messy, but that's when you know you're an artist, right? Is accepting what comes out of you and going with it. Not trying to control it too much. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to our next swirl. I want to swirl in my swirl, right? I want to swirl in here and then bring a big swirl down here. Okay. I'm going to rinse my brush out because I'm going to transition into that limey color. Okay, so big brush. I'm going to clean it out and dry it off. I'm going to go green, little green, some yellow. I'm going to use some of this dirty white right here. Green, yellow, white. Oh, and that's giving me a really pretty line. Still using my big brush. But I want this swirl to live here. It comes around. Ooh, like that. Oh, that's pretty. And then just like the beginning, right? We're going to expand it out, fill it in, little bit of green, yellow, white. Start with those big broad brush strokes to lay your groundwork. And then you can go back with that skinny brush and do those choppy brush strokes. So as I do this, as we work on this and we start expanding that out, I want to leave, I'm on a 16 by 20 canvas. So if you're using a smaller canvas, that's going to change measurements. But I'm going to leave, about 2 to 3 fingers down here at the bottom to get into that orangey red. Okay, so I'm not going to take my green all the way down because I want to get a little bit of that yellow orangey red in. I hope you guys are having fun tonight. I know what painting does for my soul. I hope you're enjoying yourself. You're breathing. You're just letting whatever's going to happen happen. Don't try to control it. Yours isn't going to look like the original. Mine's not going to look like the original. And that's okay. Okay, got my road map on there for from my lime green. Oh, edges. Don't forget your edges. Okay, got my lime green. I'm going to add, so just like we did with blue, I'm going to grab some white, turn that brush skinny ways, and start to do some choppy brush strokes in there. Again, doing it while that's wet so it blends. So I'm not laying white on top. I'm blending white in. Oh, fun, fun. These colors make me happy. Okay, I'm going to get ready next and move into yellow and then into orange red to finish out. My word of caution to you, we can move into yellow, but you need to clean that brush out really good because yellow is going to transition into orange. When we transition into orange, we want to make sure there is no blue to be found. Because if you go from yellow down into orange and you have blue on your brush, this is your art lesson for the night, this is your color theory lesson. If you go into orange and you have blue on your brush, you're going to get poop. And we don't want poop in the sky. Okay. I mentioned that because up to this point, I've been using this messy white right here. I just keep pulling out of the same messy spot because all my colors I've used so far work well together. They blend well together. When I get ready to move into that orange, I can't use any of this white that has blue in it because I'll get poo. Okay. So I have my blue, I got my turquoise in there that I really want to accentuate that a little more. I'll do that when we move to a smaller brush. I've moved into my limey color. Now I want to get into yellow and then orange red. So I'm going to take this big brush, clean it out. I'm going to get all the blue out of it. So I'm tap, tap, tapping. Oh, I'm watching your comments. I'm good, guys. I'm good. Thanks for asking, Rhonda. It's good to see you too, Kim. Okay. So cleaning that brush out. Tap, tap, tap. Dry it off on my brush. And now I'm going to go into yellow, clean yellow, clean yellow, clean white. I'm going to get a little bit of blend into that green, but not much. And I'm going along with that yellow and white right below that green, because that's going to be a nice transition into orange red. So clean yellow, so clean white. It's funny too, as an artist, we always think a couple steps ahead too, right? So I really don't like this right here. I don't like what that's doing. I don't quite know how to, where my green comes up to a peak. I don't know how to fix my yellow in there. I'm not even worried about it. I could fuss with it. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna put a tree there, right? I'll put a tree right there and camouflage that spot that I don't care for. With that said as well, if there's a spot that I really, really like, don't put a tree there, right? Don't hide those good places. There we go. See, oh, I need a little bit over here. Yellow, white. If you're picking up too much green, wipe that brush off, because we want to get a pretty solid yellow there for transition. Edges, don't forget your edges. Okay. Now that I have my yellow, dirty yellow white brush, orange, clean white. Work that right in the edge of that yellow. Oh, that's pretty. Ooh, oh, that's fun. Orange, white. Because I'm into a smaller section, I should probably mention this, I'm just using that big brush skinny ways. That's up to you, how you use that brush, but that's what's working for me right now, since I'm into a smaller area. You see, I've moved away from those big broad strokes. I'm just putting those little jab, jab brush strokes on there, those little chunky brush strokes. As you paint this, if you start to get a poo color that is really unattractive, stop, rinse your brush out really, really good. Maybe even go get clean water, rinse that brush really good, come back and make sure you're using clean paint. Give it a minute to dry if you're starting to get a yucky poo color. I think that's one of the hardest things to do as an artist, is walking away and sitting, leaving what you perceive as a mistake, leaving it sit there. But sometimes you have to do that to let it dry, get away from it for a minute. Because if you try to cover poop while poop is wet, poop will smear. I feel like we need that on a t-shirt. Or not, that's just gross. Okay, orange, white. Then right down here at the horizon, I'm going to add a little bit of red. Because I want to get bold and really rich down in there. So oh, too much red. Oh, that was a lot. I don't know. Is it a lot? I don't think it is, because I'm going to have trees there. So red. I'm not using maybe a tiny bit of white with that red, but not much, because I don't want it to turn pink. I want it to stay pretty darn red. Okay. Oh, that's pretty. Well, I can't wait to see how you guys did with this one tonight. When class is over, I would love for you to send me your pictures. Facebook private message them to me, because I always love to see how you do, the different take that everybody has on this. A little orange, a little more white. It's kind of playing, getting those little jab brush strokes. Okay. So how about 8 o'clock, we'll move on. We've been really cooking through this. 8 o'clock, we'll move on. Again, I'm going to come back with a smaller brush in a little bit and get some more of those dashy lines on there. But I want to make sure you have that top 2/3 covered. Don't worry about your stars. Don't worry about your moon. We'll take care of those. We need to let that blue up there dry. But that gives you about 6-ish minutes. Let's make sure we're down to the horizon line. Okay. This would be a good time if you need to rinse your water out, because I got a lot cooking in there. I might even go wash this brush out a little bit. So 8 o'clock, we'll come back. We'll work on more color. We'll get our water in there. We'll go back up and play in the sky a little. And I really think it's important when we do something like this, get away from it. Get away from it for a little bit. Because we're spending 2 hours standing, 12 inches away from it, 12, 18 inches away from it. So I'm going to turn my back on it. I'm going to go get clean water. I'll see you back in about 5-ish minutes, and we'll work on the water and we'll do more things. Okay. That's a technical term for what we do. We're going to do more things. Oh, and then when I come back with clean water, I have a Phyllis story. Stay tuned for Phyllis. Okay, so we got about 4 minutes. So while we're waiting to move on. So again, I have that top 2/3 down covered. We're going to come back and work on the water, and then we're going to play in the sky a little bit more. So we just want to make sure we have those big broad strokes of color on there. So about 4 minutes, we'll move on. So if you haven't joined us before, you might think this is weird, but for those of you that have been with us before, Phyllis, oh, for the love, sweet Phyllis. So I have chickens, and Phyllis is special. She's, I have all different kinds of chickens, and Phyllis, we named her Phyllis because she looks like Phyllis Diller. If you know who Phyllis Diller has that big blonde poof of hair on top. That's my Phyllis. My Phyllis is a buff lace Polish, so she has that big ridiculous poof. Phyllis is one of our smaller ladies. So Phyllis, usually she lays a white-ish egg. It's a little yellow, and I always know which egg is hers just because of the color. She will always lay that color egg. So I always know which one's hers. We only have 2 girls that lay white-ish eggs. So anyway, hers are pretty easy to identify. Phyllis usually lays an egg that's about this size, right? It's a normal egg size. I went into the box to check the other day, and I found this one. That's not like some weird optical illusion. That's the size of the egg that Phyllis left for me. I had to find her and check on her to make sure she was okay, because that's not normal for a chicken like Phyllis. But she's fine. She's okay. I'm kind of excited to have this one for breakfast tomorrow to see how many yolks are in there, because usually when they're bigger, there's more than one yolk. It might be a double yolk. So anyway, those of you that know of Phyllis, I thought you'd appreciate that. Sister was overachieving a little bit. Oh, sweet Phyllis. Okay, 2 minutes, and we'll move on. AJ, I love the art behind you. Did you do that? Did you purchase that? That's spectacular. I love that. It looks like string art. Did you wet string? Yeah, I love that. Well done. Oh no. Oh no, Kim. I'm sorry. That's okay. Even if you do miss a chicken story, there will always be more chicken stories. Because chickens. Oh, let me tell you another real quick chicken story. So for the girls in the house tonight, I don't know, maybe boys, who knows, but I think this is like a girl story. When we were kids and you had to have mom brush your hair because you didn't brush your hair and you got knots in it and you got rats in your hair. So you had to sit down on the floor in between mom's legs, in between her knees, down on the floor in front of the sofa so she could brush your hair out. And for me, it was never a pleasant experience because I don't know if you can tell, but I don't have smooth hair. I have like kinky frizzy hair. So it was always quite the mom holding my head and yanking at it with a brush. I just witnessed something like that with the chickens outside. One was sitting there on the straw bale, and the other one was over there, and she was like pulling at her feathers on her head as if she was a little kid and she was getting her hair brushed. She sat there and took it though. Whatever was going on between those 2 chickens, she sat there and took it, just like we did when we were little girls and mama brushed our hair. Okay, I digress. Let's keep going, shall we? So I'm going to work from here down. I want that to be water. And the thing that makes it look like water is all of our brush strokes are side to side, parallel to the bottom of the canvas. And we're going to cover that blue line. If you can still see your blue line, cover it. If you don't cover it completely, that's fine. We'll put trees and stuff there, but don't try to avoid the blue line. You can cover it right over. So we're going to go in reverse. I'm going to start with a little bit of red, and then I'm going to grab white, a little orange, a little more white, yellow, then into some green and into some blue, okay? Because I want to take these colors and mirror them for the bottom. Okay, big brush, tap, tap, tap in the water cup. Make sure he's nice and clean. Dry him out. And I'm going to start with just a little bit of red. A little bit of red orange, because that's where I ended, was red orange. And right there at my horizon, side to side. And edges, if you're painting your edges, just go ahead and wrap it on around. Again, it's easier to do it now than it is to match it up later. Now remember, acrylic paint only blends while it's wet. So you may think I'm going fast, but I'm doing this while it's all still wet so it will blend. So I started with red orange because that's where I ended in my sky. I'm now going to go orange and white. And to blend, we start in the new section. We go up into the old a little bit and back down into the new. That's how we blend, and we don't have stripes. Let me do that again. So with my new color, orange, a little bit of white, and get nice and close. To blend, my red is wet. I start with my new color in my new section. I don't change my brush stroke. It's all very side to side. I go up into the old section, pick up a little bit of that red, and come back down into the new section. So whenever I paint water, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, down, 1 step back up into the old just a little. Okay. So there's my red orange, my orange white. Oh, time for yellow white. Because again, I'm just doing reverse. Okay, yellow white. Oh, edges. Now, just like when we were in the top, there came a point we had to rinse our brush out. That was at the yellow, right? We had to rinse the brush out at the yellow. It's time. I've done my yellow. I'm going to rinse out before I move on, because I don't want any orange. I don't want any red or orange left over in that big brush if I'm going to move on to green, blue, because poop. Okay, so I've rinsed my brush out. Yellow, white. That's our transition. Yellow, white. And then we go yellow, white, green. And then finish out in blue. Again, we're doing just what we did in the sky, just in reverse. Okay, I've got my green on there. I'm going to finish out with my blue. Still adding those little bits of white. Oh, that's pretty. Remember, if things start to go sideways and you start to get a really icky color, take a break, clean your brush out really good, let things dry for a second. Because what have we learned? You can't cover poop if poop is wet. You just move wet poop around. I feel like we should turn that into a game. The number of times that I can say poop during a class. That should never be a game because then I'll realize how many times I really do say poop. Oh, that's pretty. Yeah, this is what I needed tonight, you guys. On this rainy night, which it is just rain and yuck out there. Some bright, pretty colors. Okay, so let's work on that water till about 8:15. And then we're going to head back up into the sky. So about 6-7 minutes, we'll head back up into the sky. So I'm going to want a medium brush for that. All my colors that I have already used. And I'm just going to go in with a smaller brush and start to play and get some more of those dash brush strokes up there. You don't have to do any of that if you don't want. If you're happy with your sky the way it is, you can stop. But I'm going to go back up in there and play a little bit because I like a painting where you can like feel those brush strokes and there's lots of texture. So 8:15, we'll head back up into the sky. I'm going to take a moment and check around my moon and my stars and make sure I don't have any wet blue paint up there. I always check the edges because the way I paint, I have so much paint on my brush all the time. I will wind up with like a roll of paint, a chunk of paint that'll take a long time to dry. And I want to make sure that's perfectly dry before I get yellow and white up there. So just checking, making sure I don't have any wet chunks. And I don't, so I'll be ready to head back up in there. So 8:15, we'll head back up top. Oh, so, okay, I have another story. So for my animal lovers out there, get ready. I have been, it's not even really public yet, but I'm going to say it anyway, because, you guys, we're here together. So I've been asked by the Union County Humane Society to come into their cat room and paint a mural in their cat room. Super excited about it. We were trying to decide when to do it because we're going to do it as a fundraiser for the Union County Humane Society because they're an amazing organization and I will do everything I can to support them. So we were looking for dates on like, when are we going to do this? We need some time to plan. Did you know June 24th is Cat World Domination Day? Evidently, that's the day that cats take over the world. So right around that date, we're going to paint a mural in the cat room. So stay tuned for that. I will post information about that on the studio's Facebook, but you may have the opportunity to bid to have your cat's portrait painted on the wall in the cat room. It'll be a caricature. It'll be like a whimsical painting of your feline friend. But I figure that's a fun way to raise money for the Humane Society, for you to have your baby's picture on the cat room wall. So anyway, stay tuned. That'll be coming. Oh, Emily. Oh, hi, sweet baby. Oh. So, Emily, you need to watch for bidding to happen so we can get your baby's picture. Zoe, so we can get Zoe's picture up on the cat room wall. Ooh, Axton, that's gorgeous. Oh, that's beautiful, Axton. Nice. Okay, you guys are doing good. So excited. All right, 2 minutes, and we're gonna head back up to the sky. So make sure you have all the same colors that we've already used. You're gonna want a medium or a small brush, up to you. I'm gonna use my medium filbert brush. Make sure you've got a little clean white, because by this point in the evening, my white's getting a little questionable. Get another plate of paint if you need to. It's funny, I talked earlier about Phyllis, my chicken. I wonder if I could sneak Phyllis a picture of her on the cat wall. Think they'd know? I don't think they'd know, because Phyllis doesn't really look like a chicken. Phyllis is special. Sweet, sweet Phyllis. Okay, another minute. Oh, Phyllis got me this cup, by the way. I love foul language, because Phyllis. You know what's funny? As I talk about her a lot, she's not even my favorite chicken. She's just fun to talk about because she's weird. She's weird and she's so oblivious. She can't see because of her feathers. And we've tried to trim them and we've tried to pin them back, and she's just something. Dusty's my favorite. Dusty's a partridge cochin. She has big feathers on her feet. She's feathered all the way down. And because she's so fluffy and so feathered, she has the most luscious chicken rump, just because it's so full of feathers. I think she's one of our smaller chickens, but with all her big luscious feathers, she's gorgeous. Okay, 8:15, here we go. All right, so medium brush. I'm gonna use my medium brush, and I'm gonna use it probably skinny ways, right? To get those little dash brush strokes. And I think the first thing I'm gonna do, I wanna fill in where my moon and stars are. So again, I've checked to make sure that's dry around there, because I'm gonna start with white, then a little yellow, little orange. So I don't want any wet blue, okay? Let me, my inspiration picture here. Okay. So with white and a little bit of yellow, mostly white, little bit of yellow, let's fill those 3 sections in, or those, not 3, there's more than 3. but the moon and the star sections. And I didn't even say it, but did you see how I filled that in? Round and round and round like a bullseye. Those in. And then with my yellow, white, and my medium brush, I'm going to do a couple little dashes. Rhonda, I just looked at tickets for the Van Gogh exhibit, and I'm asking for that from my husband for my birthday. It doesn't start, I think, until October, but I asked him if we could go in November. But did you know tickets are like $60 a person? But I've had people say it's well worth the money. So yeah, I'm good. That was the long answer. The short answer, yes, I'm going because it's Van Gogh, right? So I'm going to do some dashes outside. Just a couple, not a lot, because I don't want to take away from that lovely blue that I already have up there. But with that yellow, white, I'm kind of expanding those stars out a little bit. The stars and the moon. That's fun. Not a lot, just a little. Jen, you're going in November on your birthday? Yeah, did you get tickets already? Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, I just looked at tickets the other day and I'm like, it's funny because my initial reaction was, oh, $60 a person. And then I went, okay, I could do that because it's Van Gogh. Oh, on the 9th. Oh, if you go before me, you'll have to fill me in. Okay. I think at this point, I'm going to transition ever so briefly to my small brush to put my moon in there, to put my crescent. So I'm going to pop that medium brush in the water. I'm going to go to my pointy brush. And while that yellow white is wet, I'm going to take a little bit of orange on my pointy brush and put in my crescent. And I love doing this while that yellow white is wet, because I can kind of blend it a little. That's really hard to see, sorry. The camera is just washing it out, the light in here. How fun that is. You can spend a lot of time up in that moon playing if you want. Trying to decide if I want a little kiss of red in there. I'm not sure. Okay. I feel like I might even get a little kiss of orange in some of those stars. It's not really on the original, but I think it could be fun. So with my pointy brush with a little bit of orange, I might just do a little zoop, like left bottom around that circle. Just a little bit. This one, just a little zoop, tiny bit. Zoop. I like that. Very subtle. It makes it a little more interesting. And then I'm going to go back with my medium brush. And this is something that you can spend a lot of time on. Okay. I'm going to go back with my medium brush. I'm going to use that medium brush, Skinny Ways. And I'm going to use the same colors that I already have on there. So here I have blue and a little bit of white. With my medium brush, I'm going to take blue and white. And using my medium brush, Skinny Ways, you can get some more dashes in there. You can do as much of this or as little as you want. It's adding more texture in there. You may decide you don't need any more texture, and that's fine. You may stop right where you're at. That's okay. But now's the time. If you wanted to play in there a little more, now's the time to do that. So picking up the colors that you've already used. Ooh, I'm going to use some of this bright turquoise. Really want to accentuate this swirl here. Oh, that's fun. So you can do that all the way down. You can keep playing with the colors that you've already used and go back with that smaller brush, adding more texture, a little more detail. You can really go to town and just keep playing in there. For the interest of time, though, I'm going to give you, how about 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to move on. Because I really feel like this is something that I could play up in that sky for a long time. You can have different shades of that. Love that lime green. Different shades of it. Get, ooh, a little darker, a little brighter. Picking little spots I really want to accentuate. I want to accentuate this yellow-white swirl here. Mm, mm, mm. I had a little poo color down here that I didn't like. Now's the time that my poo color dried. And come back with a little bit of white, green, yellow. Cover that over. Get rid of my poo. Fun, fun, fun. Okay, about 4 more minutes, okay? 4 more minutes, we're gonna move on. We're gonna work on those trees, get our water in there. I don't wanna shortchange the trees. Ooh, that's it's funny. I was using a lighter color to kind of accentuate some of those swirls, and it was kind of all turning into the same kind of shade. And I was like, if light doesn't work, go dark, right? So I went a lot darker. I got that dark blue in there. Oh, I saw your message, Kim. Yep, the video will be up in a little bit. So yeah, if light doesn't give you the definition you're looking for, go dark. Layering that dark right against that white, that's good contrast. Okay. I'm gonna take my pointy brush with a little bit of white. Like I just said, if you have a dark spot, light spots are awesome too. So I'm gonna take my pointy brush with a little white and get a little white crescent inside my dark crescent. That's fun. Nice. Little white blocks there in my stars. This is one of those paintings that I keep stepping back and going, ooh, what about? And I'll go in and do something else. Okay. Okay, we're going to get ready for those trees. If you still want to spend time playing in the sky, my guidance to you is just watch the trees. Just watch and see how they go, because you want to make sure that sky is exactly the way you want it before you move on to trees. Because you don't want to put a tree on there and then have to work your sky around it if you're still playing in the sky. So don't move on to trees until you're completely done with your sky. Okay. Okay. So for my trees, if we look at the original, they're not all the same size. They're not all the same width, right? The only place you would have trees that are all the same height and all the same distance apart would be on a tree farm. It's not what I'm looking for here. Okay. So I have a couple taller ones over here at the side, and then they get short, and then one that's a little taller over on that side. So they create this lovely U shape, and that draws your eye right back in there. So figure out where you want to draw your eyeball. I want to draw my eye in here. So that's where my shortest trees are going to be. Okay. So I'm going to have a medium one here, a tall one here. That tallest one, that tallest tree comes up to my star. It's really tall. Okay. And then they get shorter, leaving this my focal point. And then they get a little taller over here on this side again. So to do these trees, I'm going to do them in black first. And then I'm going to add little bits of highlights to them. So I think you can use your medium brush if you want, but I think as big as those trees are, I think I'm going to use my big brush. I am, however, going to start with my medium brush and put my backbone in for my tree. So I'm going to use my medium brush but I'm going to use it skinny ways, not fat ways. I'm going to use it skinny ways with black. And all my trees are going to sit right here on that original blue line that I put in. Okay. So medium brush with black, skinny ways. I'm going to have one here. He's like, I don't know, 2-ish fingers in from the side. Ish. Again, you can put your trees wherever you want. I think I'm going to put all my backbones in first to kind of map out where I want my trees to live. Oh, my big tree. Oh, he's all the way up here. He's all the way up by this star. Shoo. This is a very Bob Ross moment, right? We had this beautiful sky, this beautiful background. And then what would Bob do close to the end of the painting? He'd lay this big black line right down the canvas. He'd lay that big tree in there. I have one that's a little shorter. And then I'm going to have some dudes down here that are, because this is my focal point, right? Got my little short trees down there. One that's kind of taller here. Oops. Okay. So now once I have my backbones of my trees on there, I can stick with that medium brush if I want. I think I'm going to go to my big brush though. Entirely up to you. But for me, I'm going to use that big oval wash brush. And I'm going to use him skinny ways, right? Not fat ways. I'm going to use him skinny ways. I'm going to load him up with black paint. Got a lot of paint on there. And I'm going to use him skinny ways. And for these trees, you're going to start top down and you're going to pull down and out. Let me show you. So I'm going to start here on this tree. If you're nervous about this, don't start with the tree that's right smack in the middle of your painting. Start off to the side. So I'm not going to start on that biggest guy. I'm going to start over here at the side. So I have that big brush, skinny ways. I'm going to pull straight down. Now I'm going to go left, straight, right, left, straight, right, left, straight, get those straight ones, right. When we do trees like this, we don't just do left and right because then it looks like he has a hair part right down the middle, right? You have to go left, straight up and down, and to the right. And think about, as you do this, think about how these trees are, how trees like this are built, right? How they're made. Skinny at the top, and they get fatter as you come down. They're tall, skinny triangles. And you can make them as dense as you want, or you can have it where you can see through the branches to that beautiful sky that we put on there. And I'm going to go all the way down to my blue line there. All the way down to where my sky meets my water. Okay. So again, I'm doing this just in black. I'm going to do those smaller trees first. A little nervous about jumping into that big tree. I'm going all the way down to my horizon line. These little guys down here, they're so small, they don't even really look like anything. They're just little swish, swish brush strokes. I know this is hard to do, putting that black on there, putting that bold black on top of that color. But that's what makes this good, right? Is that contrast. We have all that bright, beautiful sky and water, and then you have that really harsh contrast of black. That's what makes this work. All right, gotta get my big tree in there. I have a tendency to make these trees too skinny at first and then go back and fatten them up at the bottom a little bit, because I'm always afraid I'm going to get my trees too fat too fast. So I have a tendency to make him skinnier than he should be, but then I can always go back and fatten him up. Hey. Woo. Everybody breathing. If you're looking for numbers, I have 4 medium big trees and then maybe like 6 little trees there. Okay. Feel like my big tree needs to be wider at the bottom. And remember, it's okay for your trees to touch, right? These guys are kind of blending together down here at the bottom. It's okay. They would in nature, right? Their branches would be intermingled. And if you feel they're all growing together too much, don't worry. When we do our highlights, we can separate our trees back out a little bit. Okay. So once I have my trees on there, I need to get my reflections of my trees. So every place I have a tree, he has to have a reflection. And the easiest way I know to do this is to flip it upside down. And now every place I have a tree down below, I have to have a tree up above, right? These don't have to be as perfect as those, but you want to try to mirror. I'm going to use, I don't know, my brush strokes are going to be a little more forgiving down here. They're going to be a little crazier, maybe not as thick, not as heavy. But every place I have a tree in the sky, I need a tree in the water. Maybe here. Okay. It's funny, whenever I talk about my reflections are a little messier, I actually loosened up on my brush. Instead of holding my brush really tight so it's controlled, holding it really close to the bristles, I hold it out closer to the end of my brush, because then that helps me have like a looser hand. Therefore, my brush strokes are going to be a little more carefree, not as controlled, a little floppier. And I feel that helps with my reflection in the water, making that a little messier. Okay. And when your reflections are done, we'll flip it back up. Guys, we're almost there. We're getting close. We only have a couple things left to do. So again, this is your reminder. If you feel I'm moving too fast, if you're like, what the heck is happening? Take a breath. I will have the recording posted up about 5 minutes after class is over. Okay. So I have my black trees. I have my reflections down in the water. Yes, I just saw the comment, Kim. All black for the reflections as well. You're welcome. Okay. Once I have the black on there, for my trees up above the water, my actual trees, I want to do little highlights on them. And remember where I said if they all start to grow together down here at the bottom and it looks like one big mass of black, I can use those little highlighty brush strokes to kind of separate and maybe pull this big tree out a little bit if I want to. Not going to do a lot because I don't want to turn my trees completely gray, right? I want to keep them dark. I do want to give them that little bit of highlight, little bit of oomph. So I'm going to do that for my trees in the sky. And then I'm going to put my breaks in my water down below. I think those are the last two things we have to do here. Okay. So you can put a lot of thought into your highlights if you want, or you don't have to. When I'm thinking about something like this, not looking at the original painting, but when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking where my light source is. My light source most likely is my moon. Might be getting a little bit of light from the stars, but most of my light is coming from my moon. So in my brain says the right side of these trees are going to be a little bit brighter. They're going to have a little more highlight because that's the direction my light is coming from. So they're going to be a little darker on the left, a little brighter on the right. Okay. I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use my medium brush. Skinny Ways, I think. And I'm trying to decide if I'm going to use white. You could use white if you want. I think I might use a really light turquoisey color because I'm really kind of loving that turquoise color. So if you don't have that color, it was white, little green, little blue. That real pretty light turquoise. I think I might use that for my highlights. You could use just white if you wanted. You can really use any color. But I'm in love with that turquoise tonight, so that's what I'm going to use. Okay. So I'm going to use my medium brush, Skinny Ways, and I'm going to think about where the light is hitting. I'm going to start this tree over here. Give just a little shush. A couple little shushes. Maybe a couple on the left, but not as many. More on the right. Think about naturally where that light would hit. And this is nice because if you do something you don't like, just put a little bit of black right back over it. And I think I've decided I want this smaller tree. I want to pull him forward. So I'm going to put his brush strokes in front of the big tree there. A little more highlight on him, and that'll pull him forward. A little bits down on these guys. Not much down there. Okay. I feel like I want to pull this guy forward too. So put more highlight on him, and that'll pull him forward. Okay. And then the last thing, once we have our highlights on our trees, we need to help our water look a little more like water. Now, remember when we painted the water, all of our brush strokes were very side to side, right? Everything has to stay parallel to the bottom to help it look like water, right? So I want to put little bits of, you could continue on with whatever color you used up high. I might just use white though. We'll see. I might add a little bit of that turquoise in there, but I think I'm going to use white. You can use your medium brush, Skinny Ways, and just little white side to side breaks. I don't know, couple inches wide. You can do that. You can use a palette knife, which I think I'm going to use. If you don't have a palette knife, you can use a credit card or like a rewards card. You can use a piece of junk mail and use it like a palette knife. I think that's what I want to do. Let me show you. So let me get my palette knife. I'm going to take this knife. And again, if you have a credit card, you can use whatever, something that has a stiff edge to it. So junk mail, credit card, driver's license. Let me get some white right there on the edge, parallel to the bottom. I'm just going to go side to side. So I'm going to start here at my horizon line. Oh, look how fun that is. Get up close here. So I'm going to break my between my trees and my reflections. So right on my horizon. Start there. And then as I go, I could start to lay it down to get more paint, but go gently. You don't want too much paint too fast because you'll wind up with a big white blob. Oh, how fun is that? Again, you can use brush if you want, but I really like the look that I'm getting with that knife. And go right across those trees. That's what helps it look like a reflection, right? Cutting those trees. Oh, fun. Oh, and do a little more there at my horizon line. Again, key is to stay parallel to the bottom. Keep those lines straight. Okay. And with that, I think we're done here tonight. Again, you keep painting, keep playing, keep experimenting. If you don't like what happened in the water, get a little bit of color back over it. You're still playing with your highlights and your trees. Paint them black again, let them dry, get a little more, try something different with your highlights. But for the purposes of our class tonight, I think I've shown you about all I can show you. You keep playing and painting. You're in your own home. Take all the time you want. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here in just a minute. You can go back and the recording will be available in just a few minutes on the event, on the Facebook event. So you can go back and watch it and pause it and really get in there and play. So for tonight, I'm going to finish by saying, I think it's really important for every artist to sign their work. You don't have to have your signature on the front if you don't want. You can sign on the back with a paint pen or a Sharpie. If you do sign on the back, make sure you sign on the wood, not on the canvas in the middle of your painting, because you don't want it to bleed through to the front. I like to sign with my initials, last name, and then the year, because I think that's important to see, to go back and look and see what year I created this. Artists usually sign bottom left, bottom right, but again, you can sign on the back if you want. So I'm not going to sign yet because I think I'm going to play a little bit. I would love to see what you guys have done. So if you want to take a picture and selfie with your painting and send it to me to Crooked Door Studio Facebook, I would love to see what you've done with this tonight because this was a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and then I'll give you the opportunity to unmute so we can talk a little if you want. So for the recording, I'm Shauna Sue from Crooked Door Studio. Thanks so much for joining me. I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.